Ladies and gentlemen, the following podcast is set for one episode. Your host from Columbus, Ohio, is Michael Kirk. Welcome to the Outlaw Mudcast. Hello and welcome to the Outlaw Mudcast, your digital audio dirt sheet for all things Super Show. As I record this on March 28th, we are 3 days away from the launch of the next SRG Universe Kickstarter campaign. That's right, March 31st, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Super Show the Comic number 1 and number 2, that campaign goes live. I'm going to go through the current preview for the Kickstarter campaign and talk about the tiers right now. As with any Kickstarter campaign, you are able to make a pledge without actually a reward tier. That option is available. The first tier in this campaign, $10 pledge, digital books. This tier will get you a PDF copy of Super Show the Comic number 1, a PDF comic of Super Show the Comic number 2, backer credit on supershowthegame.com, and all of the unlocked digital and PDF stretch goals. We'll go through the stretch goals after I go through all the tiers, but there are going to be stretch goals with this campaign as well. The next tier, $15 pledge, will get you everything in the first tier, the PDF copies, the backer credit, the unlocked goals, and it will get you a physical copy of Super Show the Comic issue number 1 with a Kickstarter exclusive comic. The comic may not have the Kickstarter logo on it, but it will be a cover exclusive to the Kickstarter release. That's the second tier. Third tier, $20 tier, book number 1 plus 1 competitor set. It will give you everything in the previous tier plus 1 competitor set. Based on the last episode of Talk of the Universe, I believe this will be El Super Hombre. That will be the competitor set. Now, will this be the same competitor set that's been out before? We don't know. This could be brand new art. This could be a brand new gimmick and brand new finishers. We don't know. But we do know it will be an El Super Hombre competitor set, more than likely. Next tier, $25 tier. Book 1 and Book 2. This gets you a physical copy of Issue 1, a physical copy of Issue 2, PDF copies of both issues, all of the unlocked stretch goals, and backer credits. Now, you do not get the copy of the competitor in this tier. If you want that, you have to go to the next tier, $40 or more tier. Book 1 and Book 2 plus 2 competitors. So, physical copies of the books, PDF copies of the books, backer credit, all the unlocked stretch goals, and 2 competitor sets. Probably El Super Hombre and Snake Pit based on what was reported on last week's Talk of the Universe. Tier after that, $50 tier, 4 books, 2 with alt art covers. This will get you PDF copies of issues 1 and 2, physical copies of issues 1 and 2, and a second physical copy of each issue, but with a different cover. So you'll get copy of issue number 1 with the basic Kickstarter cover and issue number 1 with an alt art cover. Issue number 2, physical copy with the Kickstarter exclusive cover, and then a physical copy of number 2 with an additional cover. Again, with this $50 tier, there are no competitor sets here. If you want the competitor sets, you have to go to the next tier, $70 tier, 4 books, 2 with alt covers, plus 3 competitors. To reiterate, this gets you a PDF copy of issue number 1, a PDF copy of issue number 2, a physical copy of issue number 1 with the basic Kickstarter exclusive cover, a physical copy of issue number 2 with the basic Kickstarter exclusive cover, a physical copy of number 1 with an alt art Kickstarter exclusive cover, a physical copy of issue number 2 with an alt art Kickstarter cover, and then it will get you 3 exclusive competitor sets. I believe these are going to be El Super Hombre, Snake Pit, and the brand new Rock Newman competitor set. As always, you'll get credit for being a backer on supershowthegame.com, and you'll get any unlocked stretch goals. Now, all of these tiers, from the just give dollars with no rewards up to the $70 all the comics and all the competitor sets, all of these tiers are unlimited. What I mean when I say unlimited is this. As long as the Kickstarter campaign is going, these tiers will always be available. You will always be able to pledge at these tiers. There are a couple of tiers, and I'm going to get to those in a moment. There are a couple of tiers that have a limited number of spots. That is, only so many people can pledge at those tiers, and once that number is reached, no one else can pledge at those tiers. Let's go on to the next tier. This is the first limited tier. As of right now, on the preview, it is limited to 24 people. Only 24 people can back at this tier. It is a $250 tier. Join the Battle Royal and get drawn in. Everything that is available in the $70 tier is part of this. So you get all of that, plus you will be able to have a competitor of your choice drawn into one of the issues, one of these 2 issues of Super Show the comic, either issue number 1 or issue number 2. More than likely, you're going to be drawn into the background, into a group scene, but you will be drawn into the comic book if you pledge at this tier. In addition to being drawn into the comic book, the art that you are drawn into will be used on some Super Show the Game card as an alt art. And you will receive 3 copies of this card when that card comes out. So, if you pledge into the $250 tier, you're drawn into, say, a group scene. At some point in the future, that group scene will be used as the art on a card in Super Show the Game. You will receive 3 copies of that card featuring the art that you were drawn into as a result of pledging at this tier. Again, 24 spots for that. Only 24 people can back at this tier. It's a $250 tier. The next tier, $700 tier. This is the half-page competitor spotlight tier. This tier includes everything that's available in the $70 tier, in the last unlimited tier. It does not include being drawn into a panel in the issue like the previous tier, but it does include all the PDF copies, all the physical copies, all of the competitor sets, backer credit, and unlocked stretch goals. The half-page competitor spotlight, what it is giving you, in addition to what's available in the $70 tier, is you will have in the comic book a half-page drawing and biography for the competitor of your choice. This can be a competitor that already exists in Super Show the Game. This can be a competitor that you are creating for this spotlight. It doesn't have to be a pre-existing competitor, but you get to have this competitor featured in a half-page spotlight. You will work with the creative team at Super Show the Game, at Super Show the Comic, to make sure that this fits in the overall theme of the comic. You don't get to choose which issue this will be in and where it will be in. It's going to be up to the creative team at SRG to determine if this will be in issue 1 or 2 and where it ends up being in that issue. But if you pledge at this tier, you will get to have a half-page competitor spotlight feature featuring a picture and a biography of your competitor in one of these 2 issues. Again, it is a competitor of your choice, and the art they create will be used in an alternate art version of a Super Show the Game card. It does not say if you'll get a copy of that card like it did in the $250 tier. You very well may, but it's not specifically listed here. This is limited to 4 backers. Only 4 people will be able to back at this $700 tier. Basically, what it looks like to me is 2 half-page spotlights, and I'm going to assume that it'll be 2 half pages in one issue and 2 half pages in another issue. That makes the most sense to me, but that's what's going on here. The final tier, the highest tier, a $1,200 tier, is a full-page competitor spotlight. It has everything that's in the half-page competitor spotlight. The difference is that the art and the biography, instead of being only a half page, will be a full page. Again, all of the limitations apply. It's going to have to be something you work out with the creative team at Super Show the Game, at Super Show the Comic. And the art will be used on a game card at some point in the future. That is the top tier as of right now in the Kickstarter campaign. There are only 2 spots for this tier in the campaign. What that tells me is their plans for each issue are to feature a full-page competitor spotlight and a page with 2 half-page competitor spotlights in each issue. Those are all of the tiers in the campaign, going from the most basic tier at $10, giving you the digital comics, up to $70, giving you multiple copies of the physical comics, the digital comics, and then the top 3 tiers, the limited tiers, giving you the option to put a competitor of your choice in one of these 2 issues, either in a panel or featured in a half-page or full-page biographical competitor spotlight. Those are the tiers. Let's talk about the stretch goals that currently exist on this preview site on Kickstarter for the Super Show the Comic campaign. The first stretch goal listed is a funding goal. If the campaign is funded in 24 hours, and by the way, before I continue, funding for this campaign, $7,000 is considered fully funded. That is the goal that they are asking for on the Kickstarter. $7,000 to fully fund the campaign. It's currently listed as well as 24 days in this campaign. Again, that could change because this is a preview as well as the 7,000. I do not believe the 7,000 will change. The days may. I do not believe the 7,000 will change. But the current funding goal for this campaign is $7,000. The first stretch goal. If the campaign is funded in 24 hours, backers will receive a full art card of card number 1, Punch. This is a lead strike number 1 that says stop any lead grab. Very common card in Super Show the Game. The next stretch goal, 500 social media shares. Based on previous year's campaigns, when this campaign goes live, SRG Universe will make a post on their Facebook page, and they usually pin this post for the duration of the campaign. If that pinned post is shared 500 times, then, as a stretch goal, backers will receive a full art copy of card number 2, Lockup. This is a lead grapple that says stop any lead submission. The next stretch goal, 500 comments on Kickstarter. I do not know if these are original comments. That is to say 500 commenters. It just says comments. So I'm going to assume one person could comment multiple times. I don't know if that's the case. I've seen them say 500 comments and mean 500 commenters. As of right now, though, it just says comments, so I'm going to treat it as if it's just comments, and one person could make 500 comments. But 500 comments on Kickstarter That is the Kickstarter.com page. There's a comment section on it. One of the tabs says comments. If there are 500 comments on the Kickstarter, that will unlock for all backers a full art version of card number 3, Headlock. This is a lead submission that says stop any lead strike. The next stretch goal listed is a backer stretch goal. If 300 people back the campaign, that will unlock a Team Valiant competitor card. Not a competitor set, a competitor card. Team Valiant is a competitor card that has existed in the past. It's a trios card. I believe it features El Super Hombre, the Rising Sun, and I want to say EDM. I could be wrong. Let me double check. And it is EDM on the last version of the card released. Now, it's always possible on this new particular version of Team Valiant, they replace one or more of the competitors, but the last version printed featured EDM, El Super Hombre, and the Rising Sun. I do not know if that will be the case, but that is what the last version was. The last stretch goal listed on the Kickstarter website is, if the campaign is funded in less than 2 minutes, the Pretzel Wizard competitor set will be given to all of the backers. This is not a competitor card alone. This is a competitor card plus 3 finishes, a strike, a grapple, and a submission finish. I believe the Pretzel Wizard is based on Merlin von Berlin. They've also let it be known that the submission card Death Choke, which is a submission card for Mastered Osmodeus, the Keeper of Prisoners, will be one of the finishers for the Pretzel Wizard, presumably the submission finish. It'll be a submission finish for both competitors. This is because Mastered Osmodeus, the Keeper of Prisoners, was a competitor set based on Maurice Thompson, a member of the SRG Universe Super Show the Game gaming community that passed away last year. His favorite competitor besides his own was Merlin von Berlin. So this Pretzel Wizard competitor is in part a tribute to the late Maurice Thompson, aka Mastered Osmodeus. This goal will be unlocked if the campaign is fully funded in under 2 minutes. Now, in related Super Show news, the general manager of the Legendary Fighting Federation, John Clace, did announce that if the campaign is fully funded in under 2 minutes, not only will all the backers receive this goal, but Brian Schmidt will get a shot at the LFF World Heavyweight Championship on Talk of the Universe Wednesday night, shortly after the campaign launches. He will face the current champion, John Polverino. It will be a standard singles match. So if the champion loses by disqualification, he will retain. If he loses via countout, he will retain. Those are all the goals, stretch goals listed. There is an additional stretch goal that was announced on Talk of the Universe last week. And I did save the recording. It's currently a clip on the Twitch page for SRG Universe. If this campaign receives $100,000 in backing, then JAC, the JAC competitor set, will be a stretch goal. For those of you who are not familiar, the general manager of the Legendary Fighting Federation and the CFO of SRG Universe, John Clace, when he was a teenager, made a rap album, Belmore, No More, under the moniker JAC. If the stretch goal is met, then a competitor set based on the rap persona of John Clace will be made into the game. Now, $100,000 is a lot of money. That is a very, very lofty goal. I would doubt that we would be able to reach that goal, but that's a foot in the door for JAC being made into the game. It's possible that goal could change, the dollar amount could come down, or, something wild could happen, this comic could catch fire, it might make that much money. But as of right now, that is the last stretch goal that we know of for the Super Show the Comic campaign. More goals may be announced. We will just have to see. Now, what are my thoughts on this campaign, the stretch goals, everything? Number one, I do believe this will be funded in under 2 minutes. Looking at the pledge tiers, it's clear to me the tier that they are expecting people to pledge at is the $70 tier. Because this gets all of the comics and all of the competitor sets. Well, at $70, if 100 people back at $70, that's $7,000. To me, I can definitely see 100 people backing in less than 2 minutes. I can see 100 people backing immediately when this goes live. So just if people backing at that tier alone, 100 backers will get this thing fully funded in 2 minutes. Now, I would not sleep on this. If you want to get the Pretzel Wizard, I would absolutely make sure that I am there 8:30 p.m. Eastern, logged into Kickstarter, so that when this goes live, you can make your pledge immediately. Now, as for the other tiers, I can see people pledging the $250 to get drawn into a panel. I don't think that price is too high to be drawn into a comic book. Plus, you will get game cards with that art on them for pledging at this tier. I can see people doing that. What I would be surprised at is seeing the half-page competitor spotlights and the competitor spotlights selling out. $700 for a half-page competitor spotlight is a lot. $1,200 for a full page is even more. Especially considering that this is more than the cost of getting yourself made into Super Show the game, and that's already a pretty high fee. It's also a lot considering you're not going to have full creative freedom when it comes to this either. There are going to be limitations put on you. I am actually, to a degree, surprised that they are allowing this to be so open, because based on what I know about these comics from both what's written on the Kickstarter campaign as well as some other things I've seen picked up from conversations with people that were involved with the process, things I've heard on shows like Talk of the Universe, the characters that are in these comics through the first 12 issues, and the 12 issues have been, to my knowledge, at least scripted, may not be the competitors that the people who purchase these spotlights want to feature. And so that could create a conflict. Let me use myself as an example. I created the competitor DJ Outlaw. Suppose I bought the full page competitor spotlight for DJ Outlaw. I am almost certain that DJ Outlaw is in no way mentioned in any of the first 12 issues of this comic. And if he is, very small mention. The idea that he would get a full page competitor biography in issue 1 or issue 2, considering he might not be featured for multiple issues, if at all, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I could see there being quite a few restrictions on this. And I also just don't know if it makes sense from a creative standpoint to feature a competitor, to put a biography for a character in a comic book that may not be featured in that comic book for multiple issues. Again, if at all. So I have some questions about these competitor spotlights. I also I'm not sure if they will sell, because it is a lot of money for what it's providing. I'm not sure if the value is there for the dollar amounts they're asking for. But I definitely can see people pledging the $250 to get drawn into a panel. Again, I don't know enough about comic book campaigns on Kickstarter or other crowdfunding sites like Indiegogo to know how that matches up to other campaigns doing similar things. But I can see people pledging the $250 tier. I don't know that I see a lot of people pledging at the $700 or $1,200 tier. I can see those tiers perhaps going unfulfilled, in part, if not altogether. To me, the real bread and butter tier of this Kickstarter campaign is the $70 tier. And like I said, if 100 people pledge at that tier, this will be fully funded. So I definitely can see this being fully funded in 2 minutes. But again, if you're interested in pledging for the SRG Universe Super Show, the comic Kickstarter campaign, it's going to kick off 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, March 31st. And I would recommend, if you're going to back this campaign, back when it goes live. Because for me, I would want to get that stretch goal for fully funding in 2 minutes. Now, as a reminder for people pledging in Kickstarter campaigns, they do not take the money out until the campaign ends. So right now, looking at the preview, it's a 24-day campaign. It'll be at the end of that 24 days, so over 3 weeks after the campaign goes live. It won't be till after the campaign closes that the money is taken out of your accounts. So you can pledge when it starts, and then you have 3 weeks to save up to be able to pay for that pledge. That's when the money actually comes in. The last thing I'm going to mention is looking at the delivery dates. The campaign is set to deliver December 2021. So it will be about 9 months from the time this campaign goes live till we receive the physical books, the digital books, the competitor sets, stretch goals, etc., etc. So be aware of that when you pledge, that you're not going to get the product for 9 months, give or take. And that's pretty much going to be it for this Kickstarter review, preview, special. There's some other information if you read the preview site, which I will post with this when this goes up, that talks about the stories, talks about some of the plot synopses for the issues that are not just going to be part of this campaign, but future issues. Talks about how they're going to ship the comics and the product. A lot of information on the website at Kickstarter.com. So, if you're interested in the Kickstarter campaign, beyond what I've discussed here, please check that out. Once again, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, March 31st, Kickstarter campaign goes live. Talk of the Universe, Wednesday, normally kicks off at 8:30. Instead, it will kick off at 8 o'clock, so that at 8:30, they will cover the launch of this campaign. And that's going to do it for this special episode of the Outlaw Mudcast. I'd like to thank all of you for listening, and good day.